Hello guys, my name is Lahiru and I will be um, teaching you guys to how to create characters from scratch. So first of all, I would like to apologize for all the background noise that you might hear throughout the video, including that of my dogs. So because I'm doing this from my home and I don't have much control over that, so I'm sorry about that. Um, if you have trouble with it, I'm really sorry. And with that out of the way, also another thing I would like to point out is that through this video series, I won't be teaching you guys how to draw per se. So it's you understand that you need to have the basics of drawing and sketching down in order to follow this series. Because especially if you're bad at if you're not good at drawing humans, like human figure, I suggest that you guys go out there. There are like thousands of videos on YouTube you can find on how to do that, like how to draw human figures, and you do your own research on it, and pretty much practice and learn. So and also about Photoshop, so I'll be using Photoshop as my software for this, because I like drawing on paper still, but for the purposes of this video, and it's pretty much now the standard of the industry that you use Photoshop for these kinds of stuff. If you're doing character designs or concept art or illustrations in general, it's really easy to use Photoshop because it's way faster, and it gives you a set of tools that you don't have when you are painting traditionally. So it saves a lot of time, and understand that you need to have a basic knowledge on Photoshop. I'll be explaining the tools and the stuff that I'm going to be doing within the software, but I won't be teaching you like the really basic stuff. So you have to have an understanding about that. Right. So with that out of the way, right here I have sort of a Word document prepared. This is basically the entire sort of the entire series is going to be about. So I'll be going each and every one of these topics, and I'll be explaining how to approach designing characters. So the first one is introduction to character design and drawing characters. Actually, I thought about doing the first and the second one as together, instead of just explaining them differently. So introduction to character design and character drawing process preliminary research. So this is really important. This is really important before actually going into drawing. So let me pull up my Photoshop. So I already have sort of prepared kind of a reference, a set of reference photographs. I got all of them off Google, so it doesn't matter, like it doesn't necessarily have to be your own photos, because we're not going to be painting them exactly the way that they are. We're just going to extract a few details out of them so we can use that in our character. So character design is a big subject. It's not something that you can learn over the course of one video or something. It's a huge thing, because characters are generally a part of a story, and that story has to be written. So the character comes to life at the hands of a writer, right? So he's technically the actual character designer. the one who actually writes the character. It could be you in, in most cases, but in like big studios where they create big films and games, they have different, like they have a set of writers who creates these characters, create the story. So they're the first, the initial step is to write a story and write your characters, and then it's the job of the artist or the concept artist to figure out the visuals of the character. Is called visual development. So you take the story, you take what the writer has written about the character, and you try to visualize it, and you try to draw it. So that's what we are going to be doing today. For this, you don't necessarily need to have a huge story, because it's not like a big project or anything. It's just you could be doing this to for practice, or it could be your own personal project. It doesn't matter. But what's important is to have an idea about what you're going to draw. For example, now in this case, what I have in mind is a character, a female character who's obviously a skateboard girl, right? And this one, so this one is like a futuristic hoverboard. So this character is a girl who has tattoos, and she's into skateboarding. She's like in a gang or something, and she has this kind of high-tech hoverboard. So it's like she's a character in a futuristic sort of world, right? So so that's basically the background I have for the character. So doing that, like knowing what you want to draw, and doing this research, like finding out stuff about like things similar to what you want to draw, is actually a part of research. It actually helps you understand, it helps you create ideas better. It helps you visually create ideas better, and it helps you sort of reference photographs for your purposes. So yeah, so for my case, so it's a futuristic character, is a girl, and she has this kind of a very, she's a cool looking character with tattoos and a cool hoverboard. So that's for this character, that's basically the research that I have in mind. So it's important when you're starting from scratch, you don't actually start from scratch. You have to have the research behind, so it'll be easy for you to create ideas and generate ideas. Right. So the next thing is actually not going to draw, but actually figuring out what describes your character the most. So the important thing is, like in the earlier stages, you have to know what your character is. Now if you have a backstory, if you have a writer written a backstory for the character, you obviously have a pretty good idea about what this character is like. But if you don't, it's important that you create a set of characteristics for this character, and those characteristics should describe the character visually, right? For example, now for this character, I'm thinking about a young girl. So she has a skateboard, so she likes adventure. So she's not just a girl with a fancy skateboard. She's kind of a rebel, right? She has tattoos, right? So all these things, sort of, when you go through them, there's this picture that pops up in your mind. So that's what we're trying to go for here. So once you go through all of these words, you sort of get an idea about how this girl would look like. And on top of that, when you have these references, you can sort of, you're pretty much like halfway done. Like you have the idea in your mind, and that's really important. That's the difficult part, to actually create ideas. So usually what I do is something like this. I would collect a set of references, and then I would write, I would write the words that describe her visually, like what kind of a character is she, right? So with all these in your arsenal, and now you are actually ready to draw. So let's get on with it. Alright, now let's get into drawing. Right, so the first thing I want to tell you guys is that this is something that all artists, especially beginner level artists, it's a mistake that all beginners do. They try to start off with details. So imagine like they're drawing a face. What they would usually do is they would go about drawing the eye and the eyelashes and the pupil and the eye pockets, the brow, and then they think about the nose and then the other eye. And what happens when you do that is sort of lose control over your whole picture. Now, even if you're really good at drawing faces and forms, there's a chance that if you do it this way, something will be off. For example, this eye could be more to the left where it actually should be, or some silly thing like that. So let's just, when you flip the canvas like that, you can see this eye should be a little bit closer. And if you already have detailed this eye in great detail, it would be really difficult for you to actually fix that, because you have already detailed and sort of invested a lot of time on it. So now you have this problem where you have to, maybe in most cases you have to redraw it, and all that time and effort in trying to draw the detail is gone. So don't do that. So first and foremost, I should say that, because I used to do that a lot when I was starting, and then I realized that even the most seasoned artists don't do that. Even if they can, they still don't do that. So first off, it's important to sort of create the structure and then figure out the details later. So because if you make a mistake early, in proportions or anything else, you can quickly fix that because you're not you're not committed to painting that much. If the nose is off, it's just one or two strokes you have to erase and redraw like this. So don't try to think about details at first. It's really difficult to do, and I had to really work on it when I was learning. But don't think about details first. So usually when drawing characters, the first thing you should focus is something called posture, right? The pose. So these are two different things. Posture is usually how the character stands, how the character walks. The character has a certain posture, the certain way of his keeping his body when he's doing something. So posture can communicate a lot of things, and that's what we are going for. So if you have a strong character and a character that is really strong and active, his posture would be very straight and really ready to do something. It would be like something like this. His legs would be spread because he's that pose where it's come at me, bro, something like this. So posture is really important. And if you have a character who's really weak or sulky or doesn't want to do anything, just be like their shoulders would be sulking, and they would be something like this. It would be skinny, maybe even, and legs close together, dropped shoulders, and they probably be looking down. Just by these two figures, without having to detail anything, right? Not even the eyes in this case. You can sort of create these characteristics about them. This guy, you don't want to mess with this guy. That you can probably kick this guy's butt because his body language or the posture communicates that he's a weak person, as opposed to this guy who's no, I wouldn't mess with this guy. So that's exactly what we're looking for. So we're not worried about details. We're not trying to make the guy look mean by detailing the eyes or giving a scar or none of that. Of course those stuff help in the later stages, but in the initial stages it's to clearly communicate with the posture what this character is all about. So I hope you understand that. So at this point I'm only focusing on the posture of the character. Now when you look at the character and the characteristics that we sort of listed down earlier, so she's a young girl, she likes adventures, so she is a free spirit, so to speak. So she would she'd be free like this to run around with her skateboard and howl around and just do whatever the hell she wants. So she's a rebel, so her posture should be very free, like she definitely wouldn't keep her hands like this. To put it into simple terms, you know, she wouldn't be like this. She'd be, more like really free, like her hands would be like, flowing, and she would be, in a really dynamic kind of a pose, So right off the bat, you can sort of give an idea of what this character is actually about. So that's what character design does. So it communicates a lot of things about the certain character. It's not just about having cool costumes. It's not just about having six packs or superhero bodies. It's about giving this whole lot of emotions, this whole idea about this character come to life with visual cues like this. So the most important thing when you're starting off is the posture. Let me get rid of this. Right, so let's try to draw a few things, like few sketches, and see where this is going. So usually I like to start off with the head, and it doesn't really matter, but it's sort of starting off with the head makes it easier for me, at least, to sort of figure out the rest of the scale, like the body scale. Again, now these are basics. Now I'm not going to be teaching you guys these basics, so you have to do that on your own, because it's you have to do the homework, right? So it's just I'm just drawing the ears just to figure out where the neck is, and there's the neck. I want her to have kind of a long neck, because she's a woman, and slim, long and slim neck, which is more suited for a woman, and shoulders. So at this point, what I usually do is the human body, the base of the human body, let's say the chest and the abdomen, is basically has two major parts. First is this thing called the rib cage. Now I'm teaching you guys some anatomy, because I guess it would be easy to explain. So this thing is called the rib cage. This way you have the bones and the cage of bones, and then the other major part is the pelvis, or we call it oculate. This thing right here. So these are the major. This is not exactly the shape, but I'm just simplifying it for you guys to easily understand, and you don't have to be very specific. Like, you don't have to exactly draw it as it is. Now, when you're drawing a female character, the rib cage is not that wide, but the pelvis is a little bit wider. It's where you have this shape in a woman because of the pelvis. And if you're drawing a man, usually a man's neck is a bit wider and shorter, and they have these muscles. I don't know the names for them, I'm sorry. Again, like, if you're interested in learning anatomy, there are like millions of videos out there, so you can learn. But so yeah, if you're interested in learning those muscle types and stuff, I'm my memory is not that good, but so I don't know all these muscles by heart. Anyway, my point is, when you're drawing a male character, usually the rib cage is a little bit wider, like this, and the pelvis is actually a bit thinner, almost like a cylinder, as opposed to this shape. It comes down and it comes in like this. It's wider at the shoulders and gradually comes in and then just goes pretty much straight down. This is what we call the V shape, because it looks like a V. Right? All the superheroes have this shape. So that's a bit of an anatomy lesson. Again, if you're interested in you have to learn anatomy. If you're interested in learning, there are like lots of videos out there. Go check them out. So because it's really helpful to know this stuff when you're drawing characters, especially humanoid characters. So alright, so that's anatomy. And yeah, furthermore, now so yeah, we have the chest, the rib cage, and we have the shoulders right here. We have the pelvis, and so where does the leg start? So this is a problem a lot of beginners have. Like, they don't know where the leg starts. It starts from here, because the bone is something like this. Right, you have the pelvis, and the bone is connected, something like this. So this area is called the hip. You have the hip, and then the leg is attached to it, like so. Where is that? So there we go. That's how you draw the leg. So there's this shape here that sort of curves inward, and in most stylized cases where the character is pretty stylized, you don't often see that. They would basically go like the rib cage, the pelvis, here's the bend. They would just come out like this, which is not wrong. I mean, because it's a stylized version, that is fine. But in an actual case, there's this bend here. Then the leg comes out like this. Okay, so right, so that's the hip, and this is actually, you have the abdominal muscles going through here, and in the middle you have the navel, and just above the rib cage you have the breasts, like this. Now breasts is another story. Now it's now this is turning out to be an anatomy lesson, but there are lots of interesting tutorials about anatomy and drawing the female figure and male figure. So you check them out, and there's a certain way that the figure is drawn, and there are certain things that you shouldn't do. So you need to figure that out. So basically, breasts don't look like this. That's the first thing. Like they're not circular, right? They have more of a teardrop shape, like this. Because like everything else, they're affected by gravity, right? So the bigger the breast, this goes down like this, right? And and usually this part of the teardrop ends about right there where the neck is connected. It doesn't actually end there, but this line is directed towards it. Like the muscle actually doesn't go all the way up here, so it's just it's just like an indicator to find out the curve, right? So you have this part, and then the breast comes out, then like this. So there you have the muscle, and this part right here is a pad of fat, so gives breast its form, and when it's affected by gravity, it comes down like this. So these things you kind of have to know before you actually sort of getting into drawing characters. So it's just a basic anatomy lesson, how to draw the female figure. And also, so let's just go with this. So I want to get this out of the way. So right here, I don't know what these again, I'm not sure what these are called. You have these two bones, and these two muscles that start from here, that goes around the neck like this. So it's connected to your head from there. Right, so that's how usually I go about drawing the female figure. Then where the hand is divided into two is actually where, from the point where the rib cage ends, right there. If you make a circle like this, so it's about there where the hand actually bends. And usually in characters, we like to exaggerate things a bit, especially in female characters. We like to make the arms look a little bit longer than they actually are. So you can make them longer to about half of this, half of the height from the hip to the knee. It's usually a little bit shorter than that, but especially for female characters, it makes it look interesting and feminine. You have longer arms, right? And then you have the kneecap. So another interesting thing about the kneecap is that most people don't actually know how to draw it properly. Even I didn't until pretty recent, actually. So it's consisted of like these two main parts. So it's basically where the two bones are joined together. So you have this kind of a thing. And the interesting thing about the kneecap is that your leg sort of comes a bit inward like this towards the knee, and the kneecap actually is pointed a bit towards the outside. So your leg, let me get rid of this. So your leg comes like this up to the knee, and the kneecap is a little bit towards this area. Not a lot, but just a little bit. And then from there you have the rest of the leg again going inward like so. Right, so that's basic anatomy. I didn't want to sort of explain this, but I thought that maybe it'll be helpful for you guys to actually understand these things, because understand the importance of learning the basics, like the anatomy and everything. So it's really important to have a pretty good understanding about anatomy. So, and the feet, of course, it's kind of a tough thing to explain in like a single video, but there are a lot of videos that you can find and learn about how to actually draw feet. So go do that. So I will not be explaining that here, because that would take a lot of time. So we are already at the we are already taking a lot of time for this, but yeah, it's out of the way now. So I'll go to actually figuring out how our girl looks like.